Catherine M. Wilson is a recognized expert in managing international visitor protocol, facilitating benefactor and donor stewardship, and executing event and protocol management for distinguished visitors and delegations. She has provided protocol and etiquette instruction throughout the United States and managed events and delegation itineraries in the US, Central America, South America, and Europe. Catherine earned both her bachelor's degree in philosophy and her master's in nonprofit administration, magna cum laude, from the University of Notre Dame. She also holds a certificate in hospitality and tourism management from Florida Atlantic University and a sustainable events professional certificate from the Events Industry Council. She is a graduate of the Protocol School of Washington's Protocol Officer Training and is licensed through the school as an intercultural protocol and etiquette trainer. Catherine became a member of the Protocol and Diplomacy International Protocol Officers Association in 2016, and in 2020, she joined the board of directors, serving as vice president for communications from 2020 to 2022. She assumed her current role as president in September of 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Catherine M. Wilson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And thank you to the organizers of the World Protocol Matters Conference for bringing us together for such an important conversation. Thank you also to everyone who is joining us around the world for this conference. Your commitment to the field of protocol and to our shared responsibility for the world is truly an inspiration. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be with you today, and it's especially meaningful as we mark 10 years since the ratification of the Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs are 17 ambitious, interconnected goals adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, and they're focused on improving our world and the lives of people in every corner of it. As protocol officers and professionals who manage a wide range of events on the global stage, we are responsible for the details that shape high-level engagements. But we're also responsible for something deeper, the impact that those details create. So today, I want to pose a question. How can we in protocol integrate the SDGs into our work? For many people, sustainability brings to mind images of recycling bins, reusable coffee cups, or walking instead of driving. And those are great, but they're just the beginning. In protocol, sustainability is about intention. It's about asking how each decision, from a vendor to a venue to a menu, affects the audience, the local community, and yes, the planet. It's about recognizing that the small choices we make ripple outward. Now, if you've looked at the full list of SDGs, you may have felt what I've felt, a little overwhelmed. No poverty, zero hunger, climate action, peace and justice, strong institutions. It can feel almost impossible to move the needle as one person or in one event. But here's the truth. You don't have to do everything to do something that matters. In fact, the last SDG, Partnership for the Goals, is a reminder that our power grows when we come together, when we align our efforts, and when we make intentional choices over and over again. Let me make this real by sharing how I approach this in my own work. Most of the events I plan happen in different cities and communities. So as I work with these communities, I ask myself key questions. What can I do in the planning phase that has a positive impact? What can I do while I'm there to support that community? And what am I leaving behind in terms of legacy, materials, and relationships? There are 8 SDGs that I focus on most often. So let's walk through them with some practical actions that you can take. I intentionally work with locally owned and operated vendors. That keeps money in the community which contributes to decent work and economic growth, and to sustainable cities and communities. I prioritize businesses that are owned by underrepresented groups. That's SDG 5, gender equality at work. And I ask vendors where their products come from. Are they sourcing locally? Are they supporting seasonal, small-scale producers? If food has to be shipped across the country, it raises the carbon footprint. Local sourcing does better for the planet and the people, touching on the SDG of climate action. I ask caterers about food waste. Do they partner with food rescue organizations? That touches on responsible consumption and production, as well as zero hunger. Instead of buffets, I try to choose family-style meals, where smaller portions are brought to each table. That creates less food waste, and it also makes events more accessible for guests who have mobility challenges. Fast hors d'oeuvres are another option instead of large reception tables that will help reduce excess and support inclusivity. And beyond food rescue, we can talk to caterers about portion control, about menu planning, and creative reuse of food that has not been consumed during that event. I also want to encourage you to think broadly about sustainability. How we sustain our events by making them inclusive and accessible to people. Accessibility is not just about ramps. It's about space design, aisle width, seating layouts, visual clarity, audio-visual inclusivity, just to name a few. So think about whether your slides are accessible. Is large print available? Are the slides high contrast? In all these questions, we really want to be asking ourselves, do attendees have what they need before they enter the room so that they can participate fully? Let's talk materials. Signage. Go digital when it's possible. If not, use modular designs that you can reuse, that don't have the date or the specifics of the event so that they can be used over and over and over again. Now, partner with others in the community. Think about what you can borrow or rent and then return instead of buying new and disposing of those items. There's no waste, and this builds relationships with local organizations. One example of how I put this into action was an event that involved displaying framed works of art. My organization did not own art displays, and it was impractical to buy them because we only needed them for that one event, and we had no storage for them. If we'd bought them, we would have had to discard them at the end of the event. So instead of buying new and creating waste, I partnered with a local art museum to borrow art displays that they were not currently using. We only had to buy a can of paint to refresh them. And after the event was done, the museum got the displays back in a little bit better condition than we borrowed them. We also listed them as a sponsor of the event and highlighted their contribution, which helped us to build a relationship with that art museum. Name badges. You can get very nice printed name badges that are on biodegradable materials, so they're better for our planet. You can also purchase reusable name badges that are made of recycled plastic and are recyclable once they reach the end of a useful life. They complete that triangle of reducing, reusing, and recycling. For name cards and tents, I encourage you to consider seed paper. It takes a little bit of practice to write well on it because it has a bit of a bumpy texture, and you have to remember to use non-toxic ink. But they're beautiful and they're sustainable. After the event, you or your guests can take them home and plant them in your garden, and they grow plants that support pollinators. Swag. I want to encourage you to skip the forgettable items, the little plastic items that we all end up swirling away or tossing in the trash. Give something that's useful and local. One of my favorite traditions is to give out snack packs that I create from items from local bakeries, popcorn shops, or nut roasters at the end of the events. People love them, and the vendors remember you. Finally, in terms of materials, I want you to ask yourself, do I need to get fresh flowers for this event, or can I create something that's beautiful and reusable? Think about using a still life display that's meaningful to your organization or your mission and that doesn't require flowers. Flowers use water, they have to be transported, and they're ultimately going to be thrown away. So if you create the still life, there's no waste, and it helps to tell the story and connect with your attendees. In terms of transportation, really be honest with yourself about what is needed. Can some attendees use public transport or can they walk? Could you create group transfers instead of using individual cars? Um, Also, select locations for events that naturally support walking or the use of mass transit, rather than needing to put more vehicles on the road. If you really need to book buses or shuttles, use them with intention. Make the journey part of the experience, not just a convenience. When you have offsite activities, pick that location because it contributes to the learning goals rather than just being somewhere to transport people for a change of scenery. And if you can use mass transit options rather than hiring private vehicles, you get to share your sustainability message as part of the journey. Technology is a very powerful ally in addressing the SDGs. You can use apps, websites, QR codes, digital maps. All of these help keep people informed and they reduce your footprint. That's SDG 12 in action. Um, At PDIPOA, the Protocol and Diplomacy International Protocol Officers Association, we're walking this talk too. Our event planning prioritizes reduced consumption, local vendors, and thoughtful transportation. We use apps instead of printing. We have adopted reusable signage over recent years. We've greatly reduced and become very intentional about our swag that we provide to attendees. We also ask for head counts for meals. We ask attendees to tell us if they're going to come to each meal, getting them to think about whether they'll really consume that food. Um, there may be somebody who really doesn't eat breakfast. They just like coffee. We don't want to buy the food for them and have that end up going to waste. We create offsite activities only when it's essential to the learning goals of the program, rather than moving people just to move them. And when we do have to move people, we try to use mass transit or create locations that are within walking distance as much as possible. In addition to these planning steps, our programming also includes sustainability as a multi-year track to keep the conversation going. We solicit education programs on what we are doing to make sustainability an integrated part of our work as protocol officers. I do want to close with this. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be intentional. There are easy ways to start, many of those that I've already spoken about. Replace printed packets with apps. Rent what you can. Plan meals based on true head counts. Think inclusion first in your planning to make it as accessible as possible to as many people that would like to attend. Pick the more sustainable option when you have two different things that you could choose between. And choose swag that means something, or skip it entirely and give the experience to your guests as that thank you. Sustainability is not separate from protocol. It is protocol. It's about care, thoughtfulness, respect for people and place. So before I open it up for questions, I would like to challenge you. What's one new sustainable action you'll take at your next event? I encourage us all to work together to build a future that reflects the best of our profession, where diplomacy begins with respect and protocol leads with purpose. Thank you so much, and I'm very happy to take any ideas or questions that you might like to share in chat.